Hey everybody, welcome to Crack Pack Tuesday number 149 on the Mana League. I'm John as always, and we've got another pack of Dominaria. I'm loving this format. I'm at a 66% win rate, 30 wins, 15 losses so far. Loving this draft format. This, of course, is a sponsored Crack-a-Pack. Every patron at the $5 level or above is eligible to receive all the contents or some of the contents or whatever contents they want out of this pack. And this week, it is Grzegorz. So I will contact him on Patreon and find out which cards from this pack he wants, or if he wants the whole pack or what. But let's crack it open, see what's in there, and see what we would take pack one, pick one if this was a draft. Up first, we have Radiating Lightning. Radiating Lightning is 3 and a red for an instant. It deals 3 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. Not a fan of main decking this, but I will certainly sideboard it in against Saprolings, where it can be very good. Never a first pick. Up next is Adamant Will. Adamant Will is 1 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Totally fine combat trick. I'll play the first one quite a bit in most of my white decks, but nowhere near a first pick. Up next is Divest. Divest is a single black mana for a sorcery. Target player reveals their hand. You choose an artifact or creature card from it. That player discards that card. Never really a fan of these effects in Limited, to be honest. They're just not that great. I might side it in if there's a Planeswalker or something I super can't deal with. Or actually, this doesn't hit Planeswalkers. It hits artifacts and creatures. There's very little that I would actually side this in against. Not a first pick anyways. Up next is Grow from the Ashes. Grow from the Ashes is 2 and a green for a sorcery. Kicker 2 generic mana. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield. Untapped, by the way. Then shuffle your library. If you kicked it, you get to go and get 2 basic lands instead. This card's great. This card enables ramp. This card enables splash. If you are doing anything screwy in green, you want yourself some Grow from the Ashes. Never a first pick, though. Up next is Blink of an Eye, our potential first pick so far, at least from what we've seen. 1 and a blue for an instant, kicker for 1 and a blue. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and if it was kicked, you get to draw yourself a card. This card's amazing. It feels like you're cheating if you have 2 of these in your deck, and I've had 3, and I've seen people with 4. This card is super solid. There's so much that Tempo in blue can do, and blue's already a really strong color in this format. Blink of an Eye, certainly a card that I was first pick in a weak pack, which this one currently is. Deathbloom Thallid is 2 and a black for a creature fungus. It's a 3/2. When it dies, you get to make yourself a 1/1 green Saproling creature token. This is a great card. It's one of the best black commons, certainly below, of course, Eviscerate, but still really good. I would probably never have a pack where I'd first pick this. It would have to be extremely weak, and it doesn't hold a candle to Blink of an Eye, so it's not going to stay in frame. But it is a really good card, and I would play quite a number of them if I could get my hands on them. Up next is Blood Tallow Candle. Blood Tallow Candle is a single generic mana for an artifact. Pay 6 and tap it and sack it. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. This is okay. It's obviously some of the weakest removal in the set, but if you need it, here it is. It's also really good if you have a Zahid, or if you're just trying to get historic triggers. It's a nice cheap way that actually does have some utility. You know, I wouldn't jam 3 short swords in a deck just to get historic triggers, but I would jam 3 Blood Tallow Candles because they do something more than +1/+1. Never ever a first pick, though. Up next is Ancient Animus. Ancient Animus is 1 and a green for an instant, which makes this card actually pretty solid. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control if it's legendary, and then it fights target creature you don't control, an opponent controls. Fight spells, especially at instant speed, can be pretty darn good, and if you can get this on a legendary creature, if you can get this on Lyra, it's really good. Probably not a first pick in a lot of packs. I don't think I would ever first pick it over a Blink of an Eye, so I don't think it's going to hang out in frame, but it is good, and it is a relatively high pick once you know you're headed towards green. I know a lot of people get really down on fight spells, and I think they don't quite deserve how down people get on them. They're still fine, and it's the removal that green gets. Next up is Fiery Intervention. Fiery Intervention is 4 and a red for a sorcery. Pick 1, deals 5 damage to target creature, or it destroys target artifact. Fiery Intervention. It's clunky. It's super slow, and it's sorcery speed. But it's kind of what you just have to play. The fact that it destroys artifacts is very relevant. Blowing up a Jousting Lance is something that I actually should have done on a draft that you guys might have seen last week. It can just be really relevant. And if you actually get a Traxos out of this, or if you get like a Partick Wanderer out of it, I guess Partick Wanderer dies to either half of this, it's good. again, like Ancient Animus, I don't think it holds a candle to blink of an eye. I would first pick it if the pack was horrible, but this pack has a blink of an eye, so I don't think the pack is horrible. Red also is currently leading as being the flat-out worst color in the format. So, unfortunately, Fiery Intervention is not going to hang out in frame, but yeah. Our final common is Navigator's Compass. Navigator's Compass is a card that I've mentioned a lot, joking and not joking. A single generic mana for an artifact. When it ETBs, you gain 3 life. Tap it until end of turn. Target land you control becomes the basic land type of your choice in addition to its other types. There are people who will tell you that you are a horrible player if you ever play this. The card is absolutely unplayable, and you should quit Magic if you play it. But no, it's not that unplayable. It's in fact rather playable in certain decks. It is a historic enabler. It does stuff. Again, I would way more prefer to play Blood Tallow Candles than this to enable historic, but it does that. It gains you 3 life. That can be relevant. This format is slower. There are control decks. There are dirtily decks. There's a mill deck, believe it or not. But there is aggro, and that 3 life can actually help you out. And the whole tapping to turn a basic to another thing. So many people will tell you this isn't Prophetic Prism. That doesn't matter because Prophetic Prism isn't in the set. That flat out doesn't matter. Black Lotus isn't in the set either, and this card's not as good as Black Lotus. Doesn't matter that it's not as good as Black Lotus. The other thing is you don't play this as a splash land because yes, it's not a land. Yes, it doesn't tap for mana. But so many people are getting into the mindset of, oh, I'm red-green. Why would I play a Navigator's Compass to splash a blue card? Why wouldn't I just play an island? Because the Navigator's Compass turns your forest and your other 7 forests that you drew, and you haven't seen a mountain yet, and you've got a handful of red cards, it turns one of them into a mountain. It doesn't have to be your splash color. It can be one of your main colors when you didn't happen to draw it. Now, all of that being said and ranted about, it's not an amazing card. It's sure as hell not a first pick, and it's a card that you should probably cut a fair bit of the time. But there are a number of places where it's 100% fine and 100% correct to play Navigator's Compass. Don't let people tell you differently. On to the uncommons after the giant rant. Wizard's Retort is up first. It's 1 blue for an instant at uncommon. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a wizard. Counter target spell. So it's cancel, which is super mediocre, or it's counter spell, which is, I guess, better than mediocre. Obviously significantly better in constructed than it is in limited, but I'm not a fan of Wizard's Retort. Even in the Wizards deck, I would begrudgingly play it, but it would still be pretty high on the cut. Certainly not a first pick. Up next is Settle the Score. Well, that's first pickable. 2 black for a sorcery at uncommon. Exile target creature, but 2 loyalty counters on a planeswalker you control. Obviously, the second part does not matter, but the first part super duper matters. This card's fantastic. It's flat out unconditional sorcery speed removal. It's, yes, technically harder to cast than Eviscerate, but it exiles, which is ever so slightly better. Easy first pick. Probably over blink of an eye. Our final uncommon is Thorn Elemental. Thorn Elemental is 5 green for a creature elemental, 7/7. You may have it assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So you can either kill the chump blocker or kill the multiple blockers or trade with them, or you just deal 7 to their face. This is like a lava axe plus a shock attached to it. This is not a first pickable card because you do absolutely 100% need to be in the ramp deck. This doesn't tend to do that well when it comes out on turn 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It can still win games, but it's much more fair because your opponent's had all those turns to just hit you in the face. But if you can ramp this out, if you can get this out on turn 6, turn 5, it becomes ludicrously powerful and incredibly hard to deal with. I don't think I would ever first pick a Thorn Elemental, certainly not against Settle the Score, but it is a card that I like to see once I've already got some elves or some stuff like that. And finally, our rare is Traxos. It is Traxos. Traxos is 4 generic mana for a legendary artifact creature construct. It's a 7/7. It's got trample. Traxos, Scourge of Krug, enters the battlefield tapped, and it doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you get to untap it. Now, Traxos is really good. It's a 7/7 trample for 4. That is insane. And all you have to do is cast historic spells. Maybe it sounds a little bit hard. Maybe, you know, you can't have 17 Danathas in your deck, but you can certainly have Blood Tallow Candles. You can certainly have Navigator's Compasses. And all you got to do in 3 packs is find a Voltaic Servant and then it just untaps every turn. And geez, if you put a Forebearer's Blade on this, it just never taps. Traxos is fantastic. It's really, really super good. It looked like it was miscut there, but I think it was just sitting on that forest. Yeah, Traxos is really, really good. And if there's a place to pick it, it's pack 1 for sure. And in fact, I think it's just the pick for me. The power there is so high, and there's so many decks that you can go into. You can go into blue-white historic. You can go into blue-black historic. You can go into like red-blue historic. You can go into so many different varieties of historic and really go off with that. You know, if you're at the Pro Tour and there's like $40,000 on the line, maybe Settle the Score is the slightly better pick, but I'm just on Traxos. It's real good. Anyways, let me know what you would have taken. Would you have taken Traxos, Settle the Score, Blink of an Eye, something else? Let me know in the comments down below. As I said, this was a sponsored Crack-A-Pack, and it is Grzegorz getting all the cards this week, or Traxos, or the uncommons, or maybe he just really wants the Saproling token. I'll chat with him on Patreon and find out what cards he wants me to send him. And if you want to be eligible for that, you just need to go to patreon.com/ShamaniLeak and sign up at the $5 level and above, and you'll be eligible once the first charge happens, which is at the start of the month. So if you go do it today, unfortunately, it's still going to be a couple of weeks before you're eligible, but you'll be eligible starting in June. So go check that out. If you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at TheManaLeak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can find me at Facebook.com/ShamaniLeak, Twitch.tv/ShamaniLeak. I just told you about Patreon. If you like the content, click the thumbs up button. Click subscribe if you want to see more. And if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see you all next time.